This is my second pre-recorded video all about historical research. So historical research, so if we are going to define it, so it is analyzing the past events and develops the present concept and conclusion. So on the name itself, historical, so it's all about history of a certain, for example, group of people, or history of the education in the Philippines, like that. So the second one is analyzing the previous information or events minutely and testing their validity. So you have to test the validity of the previous information or history. So another one, so the purpose of a historical research design is to collect, verify, and synthesize evidence from the past to establish facts that defend or refute a hypothesis. So it also describes what occurred in the past. So it depends upon data observed by other rather than investigator. So here are some examples. So a historical research on the development of education in the Philippines, or a historical research on the development of nursing education in the Philippines. So the characteristic of historical research involves careful study and analysis of data about the past events. So it is critical investigation of events, their development experiences of past. So the purpose is to gain a clearer understanding of the impact of past on present and future events related to life process. So it involves the review of written materials, but may include oral documentation as well. So sometimes there are history that needs to be analyzed in order for that data to be useful in the present. So you have to carefully study it, or conduct a critical investigation of the event, especially if that is in the past. So typically it relies on available data, which are in the form of diaries, letters, newspaper reports, and many others, and so on. So it covers categories such as historical, legal, documentary, bibliographical, biographical, institutional, ideational, and organizational. Next is important existing sources. For example, important existing sources for nurse researchers are hospital records, order sheets, nursing charts, or physicians and care plan statements. So this is one example of documents. So the steps in conducting a historical research, first is the data collection. So the primary sources, or the first-hand information, so these are the remains or relic associated with persons, groups, periods, or events. For example, we have fossils, skeletons, tools, weapons, utensils, clothing, furniture, pictures, painting, coins, and art objects. So our examples remains that were not deliberately intended for use in transmitting information or to be used as a record. So another one is oral or testimony, or the records kept and written by actual participants in an event or actual witnesses of the same. Next is documents. For example, we have constitutions, characters, laws, official records, deeds, wills, licenses, newspapers, magazines. So the secondary sources, these are reports of people who related the testimony of an actual witness of an event or actual participants in the same. So the primary sources, those are documents or fossils, while the secondary sources, these are the testimony or the actual witness of the event. The second step necessitates a comprehensive review of gathered materials, according to Christie, 1975. So describes the analytic process of document review as a two-pronged activity. So we have the external criticism. So it is establishment of validity by determining the authenticity of the source. External criticism is covered basically with the authenticity and genuineness of data. So it primarily deals with data relating to form and appearance rather than meaning of contents, while internal criticism weighs the testimony of document in relation to truth. For example, the nurse ascertained that all the documents were original. First-hand oral and written accounts were accepted as valid. So while internal criticism, the determination of reliability by correctly interpreting the contents of the documents. So the use of original authentic sources, awareness of one's biases, the substantiation of the document in question by another collaborating source are a few of the safeguards used to ensure that interpretations are correct. To ensure reliability, for example, the nurse examined each document to make sure that the meaning of facts and statements was clearly understood. Then, after authenticity of a historical document has been established, the next question is to establish the validity of its contents or to determine the accuracy and value of the statement made. So, historians must make several determinations which require historical knowledge beyond perusal of the materials in question to carefully analyze or perform internal criticism. So evidence bearing on the accuracy of historical data might include the following. So we have the comparison with other people's accounts of the same event to determine degree of agreement. Then, knowledge of time at which the document was produced. Knowledge of the points of view or biases of the written and oral documents. Next is knowledge of the degree of competence of the writer to record events authoritatively and accurately. So the next step is the presentation of facts. So after evaluating the authenticity and accuracy of historical data, the researcher must bring the material together to analyze it and to test the research hypothesis. So, for example, we have historical researchers must be extremely careful at this point, since the analysis of historical data involves logical processes rather than statistical ones, and therefore possibility of subjectivity may arise. Historical composition is a synthetic and constructive process that involves the mechanical problem of documentation, logical problem of arrangement of topics and subtopics, and philosophical problem of interpretation. So we have the organization historical material can also be done in topical, thematic, or functional arrangement. So we have the writing of history demands careful avoidance of the following factors. Next, first is over signifying facts. Second, overgeneralization from insufficient evidence. Third is failure to distinguish between significant and trivial facts. Fourth is tendency to use secondary data. So it may also arrive to personal bias. Next is a dull and colorless style. So failure to interpret words and expressions in light of their usage in earlier times. So we have areas of historical study. So periods, geographical location, and military history. So in periods, historical studies focus on events and developments that occurred during particular blocks of time in the past. So the researcher gives the periods of time names in order to allow the organization of ideas and classificatory generalization to be used by this researcher. While geographical location, these are particular geographical locations can form the basis of historical study. For example, continents, countries, and cities. Military history concentrates on the study of conflicts that have happened in human society. This includes examining the wars, battles, military strategies, and weaponry. So we have some methods and tools in historical research. Number one is contemporaneous corroboration. So it is further support provided by the existing evidence about the past events. It is a powerful method used to establish facts beyond their limited lifespan. Second is photography. So it is a methodological tool for collection of all known information about individuals in a given period. Historical revisionism, traditionally used in completely natural sense to describe the work or idea of a historian who has revised a previously accepted view of a particular topic. Next is change log. So it's a record of changes made to a project such as website or software project. Next is human evolution. So human evolution is a process of change and development of evolution by which human beings emerge as distinctively special. Next is social change. So changes in nature, social institutions, social behavior, or the social relations of a society or community of people. So that was the end of my pre-recorded video. Thank you for watching.